On today's episode, I want to have two conversations that directly reflect and impact the Chicago Bears' present and their future. Number one, it's Caleb Wilson. Some people have asked the question on, should we be concerned about Caleb Wilson shooting, as that his three-point shooting technically got worse by percentage each of the 4 Summer League games. I'll talk about why his shooting is not the things that I want to see him improve on the most between now and training camp. So we're going to go over the things that I think Caleb Wilson's going to need to add to his game over the first couple of years of his career to really maximize on that star level upside. And we're going to talk about the wing position for the Chicago Bulls. Dalen Swain had no doubt, undoubtedly, a struggle of a summer league. And therefore, considering that he's coming into the depth chart probably as the number 2 shooting guard on the roster, I want to talk about why the Bulls can benefit adding some more veterans, or at least one more veteran in that final roster spot to compete for the minutes and actually maybe even push Dalen Swain a little bit more and who those veterans can be. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go into this content for today, y'all. And I want to talk off starting about this one, right? If you guys are worried about Caleb Wilson shooting, I think we're kind of focused on the wrong stat. Caleb Wilson seems like, and I say seems like because it's summer league, and like I say with the bad, let's take that. You always have to take the good as well with a grain of salt. The 3-point decline from Caleb Wilson is less important than the defensive adjustments that I think he's going to make. Not to say that Caleb Wilson's 3-point shooting, if it is more legit, is definitely going to help this team in a couple of areas. I've talked about it. If he becomes a legit even 32% 3-point shooter on 2.5 to 3 attempts per game, it completely changes the way teams have to guard him, and it makes him more of a weapon, right? The game one shooting explosion that he had from 3 tantalized a lot of Bulls fans in regards to like what he could be as a shooter. And I understand that, right? Teams automatically, we saw the way that he was changed being guarded as Summer League went on as well. Teams went from daring him to shoot to actively trying to take his jumper away. That's going to be an important adjustment as the regular season if that goes on. So that actually shows that his shooting is more encouraging because, again, I've already talked about many times, even without the 3-point shooting, he was not a player that you were going to be able to sag off of if he's on the 3-point line because of his athleticism, quick first step, all that type of stuff. So the question is now shifted from can Caleb Wilson hit threes to a better question is he going to be able to punish defenses when they try to take the 3-pointers away? And that's going to be a thing in there. The story for Caleb Wilson is not the declining 3-point shot. He's going to be fine in that regard because the confidence that he takes it. And we already know Thiago Splitter, based off what he did in Portland, is not going to hesitate creating open 3-point shots, even if necessarily the 3-point shooting isn't a player's best attribute. You know, he talked about in his opening press conference, they shot a lot of threes because they were open. They didn't hit him as much as you want to. So Thiago Splitter's offense is naturally going to generate some open threes. And players like Modest, players like Caleb Wilson, even players like Josh Giddey in that starting lineup are going to have to take those threes because Thiago's going to create them in different ways, right? But I do think one of the things that you want to look at as far as a positive side in this, throughout Summer League, it's already proven that teams are going to respect his jumper, at least early on. I think that was a wake-up call to, hey, Caleb Wilson is more of a jump shooter than what we thought, and it's going to be there. And he flashed the real two-way upside that we all knew was there for him and that we wanted to see. And so even when the shots aren't falling for Caleb Wilson, the thing for that is he can still find ways to punish defenses and to affect the game in all areas. That is the most important thing, right? One thing I say about team concepts overall is that if your team's not the best shooting team, that could be fine depending on the level of defense that you play. You can overcome some of that if you play really good defense. Caleb Wilson's mentality, I think it stood out in every post-game conference that he had because he's not a me player. Almost everything that he said in post games, after losses, because we only won one game so far, was to show the right mindset that he has about attacking the game. And that's one of the things that has my confidence meter in Caleb Wilson out of this world because he has the right mindset. This is a kid that loves basketball. And that's something that matters in all of this as well. So I want to talk about the things that I think that Caleb Wilson needs to tighten up between now. And I'm not expecting all these things to be worked out in one offseason, but I'm just saying these are the things that as the season goes on, as we go through training camp, that you need to look at. One, tighten the handle. That's the thing that I'm even more so worried about shooting at this point, is tighten the handle. It's now that's become his biggest swing skill, in my personal opinion, is how well he can tighten the handle. Right now, he's best when he catches the ball and gets downhill, and that's good. But defenses, as the season goes on, are gonna try to create, opportunities to force him to have to stand still and then have to dribble out of it, right? If he tightens that handle, those turnovers are going to go down. All those things are going to go down. A lack of handle leads to those turnovers. It leads to more difficult shots. It leads to offensive fouls. And I think also stalled possessions overall. That's what you're going to have to avoid. Do I have the confidence that he's going to improve it? Yes. I have strong confidence that Caleb Wilson is going to be able to improve that handle, because it's already, like, if you take a look at Summer League Game 1 to Summer League Game 4, you already see ways in which he's improved that. I think if you look at college now, you've already seen that as well. Ball handling is one of the most teachable NBA skills. It just is. Like, you can make a player a better ball handler. Are they going to be the most creative dribbler? No. He's only 19. You can teach ball handling. I think that's going to be there. If it becomes a strength for him over the next 2 or 3 years, his ball handling, I think you're going to see fewer dribbles. You're going to see a stronger left hand. You're going to see all those things from him. Those one dribble pull-ups are going to be definitely part of his game in the mid-range as well, with his ability to create separation and get height on that jump shot. So tighten the handle is the thing that I want to see the most from him to improve over the next, season or so. Next up, the shooting off defensive assignments. That's going to be the thing in this one. I think when you look at the shooting percentage declining, doesn't bother me as much as why people think, because the defense has changed. Game 1, it was go ahead and shoot. Game 2, we're trying to take that away. This is what happens in the NBA. This is what it goes to that. But if you tighten that off defensive, that shooting off defensive adjustments, that's going to be the thing that matters most for him. Teams are going to adjust to what he does defenses are going to adjust to what he does and how he can shoot. When he learns how to manipulate that even further, it's going to be there. Like I said, the one dribble pull-ups are going to be a big weapon for him as things go on. I want to see him develop a really good pump fake, right? In rhythm. A pump fake combined with a good first step, that we've already seen, that can create enough separation in the NBA and do so consistently. It helps you attack closeouts, those type of things. Also, something that I want to see Caleb Wilson do a little bit better is the relocation after passing. Now, this was Summer League. He didn't have the best teammates, those type of things. But I think when you look at the gravity of some of the other players around him, namely Norman Powell, when Caleb Wilson passes the ball, I need to see him relocate and catch an angle on the player. That way, let's say you pass it to Norman Powell out on the perimeter and Powell goes to pull up. If you relocate, you can put yourself in position for a putback, or vice versa of that. If Norman Powell drives off a pass from Caleb Wilson, Caleb understands where and how to relocate. He can put himself for a pass out from Norman Powell on a drive, or for Josh Giddey on that matter. Those are little things that I want to see him do better at. Finishing through contact comes in at number 3. I already think that he's going to be a tough son of a bitch. There's just no doubt about it. I would not be surprised if Caleb Wilson averages 3 or 4 free throws attempts per game, basically off just finishing through contact as a rookie, because this is a guy, it's more of about a physical adjustment, and the physicality of the NBA level may keep that a little bit down, but he has the length. He has the athleticism. Once he starts adding strength as well to finish through contact a little bit better, I'm telling you right now, this kid is going to be one. And ones are going to be a big thing for him. Not in the same way like a DeMar DeRozan did it. It was more through finesse with DeMar, but through sheer power and athleticism, he can do those things. And I think that's going to be a big part of his game as it goes on as well. Number 4, the playmaking under pressure. And listen, this is a hidden skill that stars have. And I'm not saying that this is one of those more long-term skills that I want him to add. I want to start seeing signs of it in his first year, but by year 3, I really want to see that. Teams are going to try to force him to pick up his dribble, or force him to become a playmaker, or either that or force the ball out of his hands. Those are the two things that you can do with that. You can either force him to set up other guys, or you can force him to have to pass it off and then try to relocate like we talked about before. I don't need Caleb Wilson to be some half-court passing savant, but I do need him to be able to keep his head up enough and his dribble well enough to be able to get other players involved. You look at lob threats, Nick Claxton, a cutting Modest Buzelis, a relocating, coming off screens, Norman Powell. There's going to be players out there that can do those things. And Caleb Wilson, if Caleb Wilson becomes the player that averages 4 assists per game from what his position is and what he's going to do, it would be huge. It's almost like another player averaging 6 to 8 per game. and that's going to be there. That comes with processing speed. That's when the game slows down a little bit more for you. That's why I said this is one of those long-term skills for Caleb Wilson. But if he does that, I think it's going to be there. Skip pass, hitting cutters, short, or becoming a better passer out the short roll, those type of things are going to be really there for him. If he can average those 3 to 4 assists per game, eventually that ceiling changes instantly when he's able to do that. And then, of course, the free throw shooting. I'm not going to lie to you. The free throw shooting has become a kind of a big concern for me, and more so just because of it is because that the rhythm in summer league with it, you take one and you get all the points. You don't take the number of shots was a little concerning. It's a little weird. So, and I think it does put a situation where players can't find their rhythm from the free throw line. I think there's going to his mechanics are consistent. And I think that's really going to be a good part into it regardless. And I think as he improves as a shooter, that free throw line shooting is really going to improve. I need Caleb Wilson to be a 70 to 80% free throw shooter. That's what I need him to be, a 75 to 80% free throw shooter. If he can do those things, it's going to improve on it. The decision-making as well is something there. But like I said, I think that's going to be something that improves with the game slowing down. Summer League's an inherently sloppy version of basketball, so there's that part of it. But I will say this as well. The defensive discipline. There were times in Summer League where, he's shown the rim protection. He's shown the weak side rotations. He's shown the steals. He's shown the ability to switch to multiple positions. And even the blocks that he's got off recovering after getting blown by has been great, right? So my confidence in him in his defensive discipline is going to be really good. But the fouls. Fewer unnecessary fouls. You need that to get into. I think better positioning on the pick and roll. He's a really good pick and roll defender, but he took weird angles at times, and that's just going to get there. We know that Caleb Wilson affects winning. That's not a really thing and worry about it. It doesn't worry me as much, but it is something that I do want to take a look, especially when your shot's not falling. You don't want to be in foul trouble on top of that. But I think Caleb Wilson's going to really be able to round those things out as well. If Caleb Wilson can settle around 35 to 37% from three, or 75 to 80%, free throw shooter, and be that player that averages 3 or 4 assists as well, I think that you're looking at a complete player, and probably one of the most complete players that the Bulls have had on their rosters in years. So the sky's the limit for Caleb Wilson. But I think that with Summer League going as well as it has for him, I do think that some people have started to gas it a little bit too much on how ready he's going to be day one. He's going to have a lot of things to work on. But the mentality that he has, the mentality that he attacks things with, that's going to be the thing that's the determining factor and the difference maker for a player like Caleb Wilson, because he's already shown he has that mentality, that dog mentality, that I'm going to go out and get it. I'm going to get it through the mud. I'm going to push my team to be this or that, right? So, while people have made the story about the declining three-point percentage, I'm not worried about that. I'm not really worried about that in regards to it, because it changed the scouting report for him. And it's going to change the scouting report even if he just becomes a consistent three-point shooter. Worry about the volume, worry about upping the percentage as those things goes on. The question that I had, and this is the same question that I had, coming into the draft process for any player that has shooting concerns, how many areas of the game do you impact if that shot's not falling? And for Caleb Wilson, it's a lot of areas. The transition play, the defense, the switchability, the getting in passing lanes. All these type of things are the areas that Caleb Wilson consistently affects the game, even when his shot's not falling. So if that continues to go for him, he's going to be perfectly fine. No harm, no foul, no ifs, no buts. So that overall, I feel pretty confident in it, and we'll just see how it continues to develop for him. Summer League has been fun to watch for Caleb Wilson. I think they've officially said they're shutting him down for Game 5. And that happens tonight. Perfectly fine. I'm not worried about it. I think we've seen enough. And now it just becomes about what he does between now and training camp. Does he get with lethal shooter again? Does he go work the dribble too much? Is he just in the lab at the Advocate Center doing those type of things? Like, what is he doing between now and then? Attacking training camp, and then just seeing what the dude does in training camp, really getting to see him out there with his guys and Modest and Josh Giddey and Norman Powell and Nick Claxton and Trey Jones and all the, as things start fitting together, I think that's a really exciting part of it, and we'll see how it's going to work out for this team. But overall, really excited about Caleb Wilson. I think we got to see a lot of what we needed to see in Summer League. But like I said, with the bad, same thing with the good. Do not think that this is going to translate one for one once the regular season starts. But if it does, whew, man, hey, we in for a hell of a rookie season, and we'll talk about that as it goes on as well. But one of the other things from Summer League, regardless of how you feel about Dalen Swain, right? And one thing I had to understand in regards to it, right? While I am not concerned about Summer League because I've seen so much up and downness in regards to Summer League, I will say this. I understand the concern that people have. I don't agree to the levels that it's got to, but I definitely understand, hell, you see a 15th overall pick not be able to hit the broadside of a barn, it's going to be a bit concerning for you, right? And I do think that there's some overreaction as well from the community. I think it's a smaller one that made all the deep takes about Dalen Swain taking over as the point guard and pushing Josh Giddey for point guard minutes. How y'all feel about that now, right? And that's what it goes to. But I think one of the concerns that I do have coming out of Summer League is that at least going into training camp, I think that the Chicago Bulls have to consider bringing in veteran wing depth, in my personal opinion. I think it's going to take more than just 4 Summer League games to prove that Dalen Swain was a bad pick. But I do think when you look at our shooting guard rotation right now, it's thin. It's Norman Powell, it's Isaac Okoro, it's Dalen Swain. That's it. Do y'all trust Isaac Okoro? Maybe if you trust him defensively, but do you trust him offensively? Yeah, you have a question in regards to that, right? So I think when you look at Dalen Swain's Summer League, while I don't agree with having the deep takes of what it means for him overall, I will say this. The conclusion that I think comes down to it is that Swain is going to be more of a long-term project than maybe what people thought. He still has long-term upside for this team, but I don't think that you should enter the season out anymore assuming he's going to be ready to bring in Norman Powell. So I think that you want to bring in, right now we only have one proven scorer on the wing. That's Norman Powell. That's it, right? Now, if you want to count the 3, we're talking about the 3, Modest and Caleb Wilson are going to play some of those minutes at the 3 as well. And so those guys, you trust the scoring upside there. But at that shooting guard position, you have Norman Powell, who averaged 21.7 points, but he's 33 years old, those type of things. I think bringing in a veteran to help push Swain and not have to prevent for you to rush him into you needing his production right now. I know people are going to say, well, Haize, what about Jalen Sellers? I get that, 2-way contract player, and I've said it before. For people who are going to ask that, Jalen Sellers should absolutely be coming into training camp with his mindset on, I'm about to take that backup shooting guard role. No disrespect to anybody else, but that should be Sellers' mindset, is that I'm coming in to prove I can be that backup too. I can play 2-way basketball. But in the form of this conversation, I'm looking at veteran wing depth. Competition is going to do nothing but help the players on this team. I always say that you want to bring in competition, right? So I think that when you look at the type of veteran that you want somebody who's going to not hesitate to shoot immediately when the ball's open, that knows how to relocate without the ball, that knows how to defend without gambling, that can make those quick decisions. And I think it has to be a veteran that is scalable, meaning that the addition should be comfortable with competing for minutes in training camp, playing 15 to 20 minutes when needed. And that's somebody that may have to settle on getting occasional DNPs if the young guys do look like they're ready, but also playing alongside Dalen Swain and the other players when you do that. So I have 3 options on the free agent market that I think all make sense for the Chicago Bulls. Number 1 is Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown, I think at this point, the fact that he doesn't have a deal, I think says that he could very well take that room exception that the Chicago Bulls have. I think he's the best true ring option that he has. The combination of experience, versatility, and competitive value that he brings to the team definitely works out. He averaged 7.9 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 2.1 assists last season as a 29-year-old. I think when you look at that, that all fits in exactly what the Bulls need. The Bulls don't need some 20-point per game or even a 15-point per game scorer off the bench. They need somebody who's going to be able to take their shots. I think he fits because he can guard guards. He can guard smaller wings. He rebounds. He can handle the ball sometimes when you need to as well. And he can push Dalen Swain to compete because they play similar, have similar strengths as far as defense, rebounding, cutting, those type of things. I think that he fits that. Even if Swain doesn't improve, then Brown doesn't have that permanent role. But he's a guy that can be on the end of your bench for if your young players do struggle, you can bring in a veteran person for that. I think he's the best all-around veteran wing option this late into free agency, and I think he offers a lot. If you want to look at pure shooting, I think that Seth Curry could be somebody. Now, he's a smaller guard, but I do think for the shooting aspect, the Bulls need shooting. Seth Curry is somebody that I would absolutely look out for. He's an unrestricted free agent. He averaged 7 points on 48% shooting from 3 last season, even though it only came in 10 games. But I think that he fits in the sense that you're bringing in a veteran that can stand out when you need him to, but if you don't, he can be the back end of the bench player without needing a whole lot of money. He's only 6'1", but I do think he can provide some reliable wing shooting there that the Bulls could need. I think he's the best fit as far as just pure shooting wise, but the size could be, especially when you already have Trey Jones on your team. But then the best defensive option, if the Bulls aren't really worried about shooting, which I can't even say that because I think he's a career 39% three-point shooter as well. Matisse Thybulle. Now, this is a guy that also has experience playing for Thiago Splitter. I think that he remains available. There has been some interest from the Lakers reportedly. This is a guy that's a 2-time all-defensive second-team selection. He averaged 5.8 points, 2 rebounds, or shooting 39% from three, almost 40% from three, 39.8% last year. I think that he immediately brings more wing defense, which this team does need. And like I said, if you don't have the consistent shooting, you can overcome some of that with a really solid defense. He would definitely provide that for the team. He would put pressure on ball handlers, those type of things. His defense really would make a huge difference there. And I think that he's the type of player that you would hope that Dalen Swain can try to develop into, right? And if Swain does improve throughout now in training camp and earns that role, I think that he's still somebody that can be on the end of your bench. You can call on him when you have those tougher defensive assignments. And while he only played 30 games last season and injuries have limited his availability, you're not betting on him to be the end-all, be-all for your team. You're providing some veteran depth there. I think he's a strong veteran defensive option that also has some shooting upside as well. So that's what I would look at. So in regards to it, I think that those guys all make some sense. And just because of some of the names that I think people are going to ask me about, no, I would not be interested in bringing DeMar DeRozan back because of the style that DeMar plays, heavy isolation type style. And while, Swain has scored heavy in isolation before, I don't again, you have to play a certain brand of basketball when you're getting to DeMar DeRozan. So no, I would not be interested in bringing DeMar DeRozan back. Bradley Beal, I know I had brought him up earlier as somebody that you can sign for the 15th man on the back of your bench. But now that we're talking about meaningful minutes, I don't really know if I'm in on Bradley Beal either. His health questions, all those type of things, the preferred offense role that he would want, I don't really think he fits the Bulls. And then something else that another people have brought up is Marjon Beauchamp. Now, this is a guy that's unsigned. He's 25 years old. But I think at this point, I'd rather give those development minutes to Swain and Sellers if we're going to go somebody like that. So that's what you look into it. But I think that the Bulls should be pursuing 1 year veteran minimum players that may be a little bit more than that. But at this point in free agency, you could probably sign players, even if you offer a little bit more than the vet minimum. I think that you can probably get a lot of these players in regards to it. Just somebody who can provide some depth if they need to play on that second unit. But if Swain at 21 ends up being ready to take over, they don't really get in the way of that as well, right? The Bulls don't need to give up on Dalen Swain, but they may, if they were assuming that his development timeline would make him more ready right now, I don't know if you want to necessarily bet on that. But then again, the Bulls are a developmental team. They're not necessarily, while they're going to compete every game, it's not they're expecting to win 45 games next season. So maybe they'll overlook that as well. But if they're going to go for a veteran in that final roster spot, those are the guys that I would look towards. But let me know if there's anybody else that you guys would be interested in as well. But that's going to do it for today's show. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are sign off in the comment section. I want to hear your thoughts on everything down below. What are some things you want to see Caleb Wilson work on between now and the start of the season? And who are some of the veteran options that you would go after to add some more wing depth to this team as well? Make sure you guys sign off in the comment section on that. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or a live stream. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you ready if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation